Taavet, Ahti, it's great to be here on stage with you today to talk a little about what you have learned from your times at Skype, Wise and Starship. So, Ahti, you were the co-founder and chief technical architect at Skype from 2002 to 2008, now building Starship since 2014. And Taavet, you were Skype's first employee and now co-founded Wise in 2010, IPO'd in 2021, and now building Plural. So I'm sure you have lots of learnings. So let's dive right into that. You started your careers in the startup ecosystem 20 years ago. What did the European startup scene look like back then?
It was very different. It was much more amateurish and less systematic. Like, you know, just to bring you one example, like when we were building Skype, then we were like really like, I would say, you know, cowboys. We were really going by intuition that, oh, let's do this, oh, let's do that, you know. We were not like very systematic. And I would say like, for example, like about 1 year into the Skype journey, when we already had millions of users, I think somebody introduced the concept of UX to the company. Like we realized that, oh, we can actually like take videos of people using our product and wow, we can learn from that. Wow, this is like a great idea. You know, nowadays it's much more professional. People know what they're doing. There are like best practices everywhere and people follow these and it's just a lot different right now.
What do you think, Taavet, is the biggest change over the last 20 years?
Yeah, I think it was almost 25 years ago when we were building Skype, and back then it felt like startups were kind of a subculture. It was a bunch of nerds trying to build something, and now it feels that, you know, this thing is completely mainstream. Like, you know, when we hired an engineer back then, the person would go home and parents would ask, like, you know, what happened? You know, were you not good enough to be hired by the bank? And today, if you go work for banks, then your parents will ask, like, what's wrong with you? So I think that's been a pretty big change, that, you know, from subculture to mainstream. You know, Anton from Lab talks about shaping history now. Back then we were just tinkering and trying to build something cool. It was a bunch of nerds.
Yeah, but I think that's a great, you know, development, right? That it's like not something that's frowned upon if you want to go and found your own company or join an early stage company. Is there anything, if you look back, that you're kind of like nostalgic that you think was better back in the days, or anything that you miss from those times 20 years ago?
I think we were all younger and
prettier.
Prettier, yes, and maybe the parties were more fun. I think at one party we were throwing our CEO Niklas Zenström into a pool, and I think nowadays probably at Starship we are not doing that. I'm the CEO, so I.
You don't let people throw you in the pool?
Yes, it doesn't happen. Yeah.
Okay. Anything that you missed, Taavet?
I think the parties are still good nowadays as well. You know, if you're a company less than 100 people, they're still good. After that, HR comes in and ruins it all.
Okay. Well, kind of like, if we start thinking more about the present and where we are now, so Taavet, you started Plural in 2022. Why did you decide to jump into becoming a VC and not build something of your own again?
So I think, you know, first of all, the building journey is incredibly hard. It takes a long time, and the odds are really stacked against you. I feel really lucky that I've been part of 2 great journeys. And I thought that instead of spending 10 more years trying to build one company, if I start investing and helping the next generation of ambitious European entrepreneurs, myself together with my partners at Plural, we can help 10, 20, 30 companies become way bigger than Skype and Wise were before. So I think I can kind of multiply my impact by investing and helping the next generation build their companies to a much bigger outcome, hopefully.
Yeah. What has been the best thing about moving from being a founder to now being a VC?
I'm a curious person, so I like being able to work on multiple things, and it kind of constantly keeps on pushing me to learn new things, so I really enjoy that.
Ahti, you went from building Skype to building Starship. What motivated you to start a new company and also in such a different industry?
Yeah, it's a different industry, but I think there are also similarities. They were both revolutionary products of their time. Like, you know, Skype, like right now, I mean, Skype is like video calling and you know, text messaging platform. Like right now, this is like commonplace. There's so many of these, right? You know, but back then, you know, we were really trailblazers. And back then, you know, people had lots of counter arguments. For example, Skype, wow, okay, people are not going to be talking to computers. I mean, phones already exist. You could call somebody using a phone. Why do I use like a computer to call somebody? And like all of these things. So we were a little bit mavericks. We were with this idea that we would transform how communications is made, and we were quite successful at that. Despite all of the people who didn't immediately see how this could be done. And with Starship, we are automating the movement of stuff in the world. We are automating delivery. We are building delivery robots. And also in the beginning, there were a lot of people for whom this was like a new idea. It was like, okay, robots delivering something does this really work? But now we are like all over Finland, for example. I think the people in the audience here who are from Finland, everybody knows our robots because we have like thousands of robots all over Finland. We're probably doing like more than 10% of all last mile deliveries in Finland today. We are covering the whole Finland right now. And in other countries, we're rolling out in US, in UK, in Germany, and so forth. But also it's the same thing, like it was new for a lot of people. So I have been never building like copycats of other companies. I've always been kind of a trailblazer. Yeah. So there's similarities as well.
How do you navigate that as a founder when people kind of push back and don't believe in you and the things that you are doing?
I just show them that they are wrong, that these things absolutely work. And it's actually easy to show with like facts. And just walk around in Finland. You see our robots, all the time, and talk to people in Finland.
Did you ever have any moments of doubt where you were like,
no,
sure if this will work?
No,
never.
I would say the only doubts I've had is that can I get other people to believe in this? But I've always believed in this. I have known from the start that all of these potential problems we can solve. Like in my mind, the journey has been clear. We kind of set out, building this completely new breakthrough stuff, like science fiction movie stuff, where you don't see like people knocking on your doors, delivering stuff. You see like things flying to you, right? That's the future that we are building at Starship, and I saw that future very clearly from day one. And I knew we needed to solve about like 10 things along the way.
Yeah.
Like, how do the robots navigate in the world? Getting the robots cheap enough, getting the unit economics to work, all of these things. We have solved all of these 10, and all of these 10, you can just list them and go, okay, we approved that, we approved that, we approved that, and I saw all of the journey. I've never had a doubt that
just like a very systematic approach. Well, Taavet, you were one of the first believers in Starship, so what made you convinced, and have you ever had any doubts?
I think we've all seen that Skype was shut down and the company doesn't exist anymore. So I think you always have a doubt about how many decades your company can survive. But I look at Starship and I think of it as Starship is disrupting the bicycle. Why do we need a human delivering a pizza? So to me, it's kind of very natural what they're doing. The question has always been, how long will it take for this to start working? But kind of where we are today, having seen the unit economics keep on compounding. Today Starship is one of 3 autonomous driving companies in the world. We have Waymo, we have Baidu, and Starship. So it was just a question of looking at Ahti systematically going through these 10 things, and it's a question of when does it start working. And today we are cheaper than a human, so I have no doubts about this being a huge European success story.
Awesome. If we go back to kind of the early days of Starship, so you founded the company in 2014, you started operations in 2018. What was it like founding a much more kind of capital-intensive and engineering-heavy business after the Skype experience? Also, the growth trajectory obviously has been very different for Starship compared to Skype.
The growth trajectory is different, but the industries are also very different. And the thing is, the growth trajectory is also different for our competitors, right? So for Starship, the competitors have always been like 5 years behind us. And of course, there are competitors because the idea of automating logistics, automating the movement of stuff in the world, movement of atoms in the world, it's not a new idea. People have kind of dreamt of it, for a long time. You could say that the last mile delivery is actually the last industry in the world which is not automated, where it is still 99% of the time it's a person who just does it with like whatever your package or your burger or whatever they are they're delivering this one thing just for you for like 20 minutes or so, and this doesn't really happen in any other industry anymore. So people have been dying to automate this as well, and we are the only company that has succeeded in it.
Are there any learnings from your kind of early days at Skype that you were able to apply now in Starship's journey, and then anything that you had to unlearn that doesn't work the same, because obviously the industry and the company and the product is very different?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the timescales are different when you're producing hardware, designing hardware, doing autonomous driving. I mean, this is like deep tech. Like, it's not something that you could do so quickly. Like, with Skype, from the time when we kind of had the idea to actually having a product on the market was 9 months. So you can't really do that with like autonomous driving technology, or being the first company to roll out robots or cars driving by themselves without a human oversight. It takes longer time. But other than that, it's the same journey. It's about you always have lots of detractors or lots of things that why it wouldn't work, or what would go wrong, or what could go wrong. You need to systematically solve these things. You need to keep on track, unless of course you pivot or you decide that okay, this is not going to work.
Taavet, as an investor, you support different kinds of companies, like more hardware-intensive businesses, just software businesses. How do you, as an investor, kind of navigate that and supporting the companies when they're on very different trajectories and might need different kinds of help?
I guess to me, looking at the companies, it's really a question of what is the big moat that they have. And I'm more looking at what is a compounding moat a company can have. In case of Starship, the more miles they drive, the better the autonomous driving becomes. If I think about Wise, we were building infrastructure. It's doing one integration with a bank is easy, but if you do hundreds of them around the world and keep on doing this, then you are really becoming so far ahead of others that it's very hard to catch up. And are we looking at the companies where every additional user interaction, so one more transfer, one more delivery, makes the whole better. So as we scale, we get better economics. And I think seeing that the company is built around the flywheel, which will keep on pushing and improving this, is really important.
So if you think about kind of like as an investor, when you evaluate a company's moat, like what are the 3 most important things that you look at?
I mean, zooming up for this, it's really about team, but it's how it is the learning speed. How quickly is this team learning, and how quickly are they delivering the first versions? If you think about the big difference is really if you get the first version out in 9 months, and then you iterate, you learn in 2-week cycles, compared to maybe the kind of older way, you take years to release the first product, and we very seldom see that working. So it's really the speed of iteration, which I think is the most important thing to measure and manage.
Yeah, so team and speed of execution, essentially. Ahti, how did you think about building the Starship team when you got started?
We have also gone through many different phases. Like it's when you are building your first robot and you're doing your first deliveries and you have like 5 robots, and at that point you need a different team than at the point where you have like thousands of robots as we are right now. Like we are like a highly optimized and systematized operation. Back then we were experimenting. So back then we needed an experimentation team. Now we need a systematic execution team. Like we know exactly what we are doing, and we are at it. We are improving. Now it's like, and in between there has been a phase where it's still continuing right now, where it's like a metrics optimization phase, like very important thing in automating delivery or building delivery robots, for example, is the cost per delivery. Like when you first build a robot, this robot's actually going to be really expensive, but all robotics companies, the founders tell that, we are doing this because our robots is going to be eventually like cheaper to do it with our robot than with like hiring a person to do it, because a person can do almost anything that the robot can do. So it needs to be cheaper than the equivalent labor cost, like a human labor cost. But your first robot's really expensive. Then you optimize. So it's metrics optimization, numbers. Like at some point, like we had a number that we needed to optimize to be better 250 times. So we knew that the target is here, and we are right now here. We needed to optimize down 250 times. I as a CEO, I stood in front of the company every week. We had like an all-hands meeting every Thursday, And I stood in front of the company and reported, okay, last week our number was this. Now we have 100 times to go. Then we have 50 times to go. Then we have 30 times to go. Then 10, then 5, then 2, and then we were there. Like, so you need also a different kind of team for that phase.
Well, I guess you've optimized quite well because your growth has really exploded in the last few years. So doubling deliveries since 23 year on year, recently completing 9 million deliveries or over already. What's kind of led to this shift?
Just this going through systematically different things that are needed for the scale. Like we have had this vision from day one. Like we have known what we need to do. We need to solve the autonomy of the robot to make sure that the robots, we have a lot of competitors where robots are like completely teleoperated or driven remotely. There's somebody sitting behind like a screen and just with a joystick or something, driving a robot, right? Like we always knew that, while we could do like our first delivery this way, this couldn't possibly scale. It couldn't make commercial sense. So we knew we needed to build an autonomous driving system. So building that was a big thing, and it's completely commercial quality right now. And we're building like some other pieces around operations and everything. But we are just systematically at it and solving everything there is to solve.
But maybe just to add to this, I think why there's a breakthrough in Starship now is really it is a question of the cost of delivery. If Ahti mentioned that the first delivery you do is going to be like you're talking about hundreds of dollars per delivery. But now as Starship has gotten cheaper than a human courier, I think that is really powering that every delivery company sees now that why should I pay a human on a bicycle if I can pay half that money to Starship, which will do it autonomously. So it's really the question of continuous improvement until you hit, it may be only a 10% improvement, but you go through that barrier, and that really starts powering the future of your expansion.
From your perspective, Taavet, what do you think has led to the success of the Starship team in particular, and Ahti?
Meticulous execution, just continue. I think an engineering-focused culture for the first years to build something which is really hard to build. It takes a lot of believing in the beginning and many years to get the product to market. I would even say Starship was probably a number of years too early. The first years were really painful. But if you start it now, you're probably going to get to the same point quicker. But luckily, Starship, by the time anyone starts now, Starship 3 years from now is going to be on a different planet.
If we think about those early years, you said they were painful, so a question to both of you. What was it living through that? How did you keep the team motivated? How did you keep yourself motivated? How did you keep believing in the team and the product that they were going to get where they got today?
I think, the motivation of people over like a period of like a decade, it also goes through phases, right? In the beginning, it's like a lot more that, wow, we're doing this. Wow, okay, this is like a nice, great vision. Oh, well, of course, yeah, let's do this. Then you start finding out, that, oh, it's actually more difficult. But you solve this through this. And then you start enjoying some success. And you start actually seeing that, wow, okay, people are really using our product. And our product really offers great value to our customers, then that starts motivating you. So the motivation is different. Right now, our very early stages, it was more about the vision. Now it is more about that we are actually touching a lot of people's lives. Like here in Finland, we're doing probably more than 10% of all deliveries. This is just the beginning, of course. We're going to do more than 10%. But still, and also with Skype, for example, I think at some point, we were like in the very early days, we were also motivated by wow, okay, we do this revolution, but we hadn't actually seen that revolution happen. But from the first times where we had like random people walk up to us and say, hey, I'm using your product all the time, and now or later, then I think I had multiple people come to me and tell me that hey, you saved my marriage, because I was like, me and my partner, we were like different continents, and we had like hours-long calls, on Skype, and that really like saved our marriage, really, which is really moving. What did you do during the last decade? Okay, I saved a bunch of marriages, and also built a great technology and great product.
Awesome. You've already said well, many times your robots are kind of everywhere in Finland. I've seen them. I see them almost every day. What are your plans for expansion beyond this? Because I don't think there's many cities like Helsinki where you'd see a Starship kind of almost around every corner.
So there are a lot of cities in the world. We are only scratching the surface. So yeah, we have completed 9 million deliveries. And in Finland, everybody knows us. But in many other countries, nobody has seen our robots. Nobody has seen a robotic delivery. A lot of people still think that, oh, does it really work? Like, how is it that receiving something like with a robot comes and, oh, how do I get stuff out from the robot? It's actually really easy. But people who have not experienced it think that this is like a new thing. But like in Finland, it's completely mass market. Everybody has seen it, and we're using that model to copy to other countries.
Awesome. If we kind of think a little bit about the future, if we zoom out, I think we're kind of all aligned that we're working towards Europe producing its first trillion-dollar company. So Ahti, what do you think is still needed for Starship to get there and be the first?
To cover the whole Europe and the world in the same way as we have covered Finland. Like we would easily be a trillion-dollar company.
What are the barriers?
No barriers.
No barriers.
No
just
barriers.
Execution.
I mean, we have proven the 10 things that we needed to prove. Now it is just rolling out everywhere, and our customers see that we are the only company in the world being able to offer them what they need. So no barriers.
What about Taavet? What companies do you think are the front runners to claim the spot of being the first 1 trillion company out of Europe?
I think the first trillion-dollar company in Europe is not going to be a software company. I think it's much more likely to be a hardware company similar to, as we look at now, for example, NVIDIA or Apple. I think we need to realize that Europe is 10 to 20 years behind the US. So the cycle of creating $10 billion companies, $100 billion companies takes a bit longer. But I believe that the trillion-dollar company has already possibly been started. I look at the companies around us, whether it's Starship or Proxima Fusion building a nuclear fusion power plant, or if we look at Helsinki that is redefining the war, well, actually, I hope they won't become a trillion-dollar company because that would mean the war lasts a lot longer. But I think we can see that outside that the companies that are in deep tech or combining software with the real world, I'm really, really excited about seeing that happen.
What do you think are kind of the biggest challenges for these companies to get there?
I mean, if we look at kind of what do you need to make a startup happen and grow, you need capital, you need talent, and you need customers. We have more and more capital in Europe. Maybe still not enough, but I think there's more and more capital available. We have a lot of talent in Europe. I think we have probably more people in Europe than we have in America that are builders. And then lastly, it's about customers. Maybe that's my last grudge, that if we look at the fast-growing companies, typically your customer base will grow initially quicker in the US. So I think we need to get the European customers to be a little bit quicker in adopting. But I think we have the core ingredients.
How can we do that? Get the European customers to just be quicker at adapting these new companies?
Gosh, that's a hard one. That's a hard one to solve. I think maybe just the companies need to be pragmatic and at some point get the American customers, and while the Europeans are still making up their mind.
Well, as a final question, there's a lot of the founders in the audience, hopefully building their companies towards that 1 trillion milestone. So what would be your number one tip for them, if we start with you, Ahti?
Build a great team and get great people around you, including great investors, like top-tier investors like Plural. Get Taavet to be on your board. Has really helped.
Why is Taavet good on your board?
He's just good at everything. He has so much experience. He's probably useful in every phase of the development of the company. I'm really happy to have Plural as an investor.
What is your number one tip for the founders in the audience?
I think go and build something hard. I think today maybe there is too many people are being motivated by the quick and easy successes. I think easy come, easy go, but building something hard, it's going to be a lot more defendable in the long term. Ahti's been on a journey for 10 years, but I think just go and solve a hard problem find a real strong moat and then keep on doubling down on that.
So kind of sum it all up, build a strong team, just execute really well, and build something hard, and that will get us there. Yes, amazing. Well, thank you so much for spending time here on stage with me and for sharing your learnings with the audience. So thanks for being here today.
Thank you, Elin.